Oh my God. Oh my God. Do you know what day it is? It's another day for Cube First Live. That is amazing. I'm excited about this one. I know what, if you're watching those, I'm always excited about the live stream because, like, you know what? We always talk about interesting stuff. And today we have a guest who is at its second Cube First record. The first one, it's because he was the first guest we ever had on the show. So congratulations about that. And now is the first guest we're having twice. So Kai, welcome again to the show. Super happy to have you.
Well, I'm super happy to be here. Thank you very much for inviting me back.
That's our pleasure. And for those that don't know you, who are you?
My name is Kai. I work for a cloud provider called Civo. I'm a developer and developer advocate. And yeah, I'm here to kind of talk about Civo and Kubefirst and things that we do together.
Never heard about Civo. I don't know that company. And there's someone else with me that if you're not new to the show, you know that man. But we'd like to introduce you.
Yeah. Hi, I'm John Dietz. I'm one of the co-founders of Kubefirst. Kai, it's great to have you on the show again. Nice to see you breaking another high watermark on our behalf. So thanks for joining us. Excited to talk a little bit about Civo Marketplace and Kubefirst.
And my name is Fred. I'm also a developer advocate, but I don't work at Civo. I work at Kubefirst. So I think we have a great team for the show today. And again, as I said, an exciting topic. So we had a live stream a couple of weeks, maybe months ago, even now. I don't keep track of like all the live stream, but we were talking about Civo, kind of like a live stream to introduce people a little bit to the cloud provider and the fact that we had support for that new cloud, actually new cloud to Kubefirst, Civo. And there's another milestone in the, let's say, Civo and Kubefirst love, where now you have Kubefirst available on the Civo Marketplace. But what is the Civo Marketplace? And this is part of why we have Kai today is going to introduce us a little more about like what it is and a little bit about what Civo and who are Civo.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, that was a very good, quick introduction. Thanks, Fred. Like I said, it's great to be back with you all. I really enjoyed it. I was just checking, it was in April that I was last on here. So time flies while you're building stuff and having fun, I guess. So yeah, to get us started, I was going to do a really quick introduction to Civo and the Civo Marketplace, because that's what we're here to talk about, is the marketplace. And then, once everybody's up to speed, then we can have a bit of a demo. So yeah, Civo is a public cloud provider, and we try to be cloud native from the outset. So we run our own hardware in various data centers all over the world. We have 4 regions now, and we offer managed cloud resources to people everywhere. And yeah, so just as a kind of, if you've got any experience with any other public cloud from the likes of Google Cloud, AWS, or whatever, we do basically all of that same stuff. But if you watched me the last time I was on here, I talked about this quote from our CEO, Mark Boost, and I just think that it's nice to bring this forward as a little bit of a primer of what Civo is trying to do as a cloud provider. So we're trying to compete in what is a very crowded and very noisy landscape by trying to do like the right thing, essentially. So trying to innovate, but like doing in an ethical and transparent way. And because we're going to be talking about Kubernetes and the things around it, I would say the core of our service offering is our managed Kubernetes. And that means that on Civo, you can launch Kubernetes clusters on our hardware, and we take care of the setup and control plane side of things. So you just need to choose what you deploy. Like your application, and we have things to manage load balancing and auto scaling and, things like that. But we also have a big old marketplace, which is what we're really here to talk about. So as part of that Kubernetes service that we offer, there's a marketplace of applications that you can use as, and I like to call them like building blocks of your various applications, because everybody, you're not building as part of your application, you're not going to be building the whole monitoring stack. There's Prometheus and Grafana are big big sort of players in that thing. So we have those kinds of common tools that you would expect to pretty much run on every cluster available as like just click to add to my cluster, but also just really esoteric applications as well. And basically the way that it works is when you log in to create or manage your Kubernetes cluster on Civo, you'll find a set of like predefined applications or pre-configured applications that we and the wider community have sort of contributed by thinking that we think they're useful. And of course, you can install anything you want on a Kubernetes cluster. We're not limiting you to things on the marketplace. Or if there's an extra configuration bit that you want to do on an application that's otherwise pretty much straight from the marketplace, you can do that too. You can tweak things and then apply stuff to your cluster manually. But we think for the majority of use cases, stuff on the marketplace is actually fairly good places to start, and one thing to note about them is that our marketplace is open source. You can find it on github.com/Civo, and please do contribute applications if you think they are useful, because as somebody who did, the Kubefirst good people at Kubefirst did, cool people can contribute cool apps, and in this case, if you can see, Kubefirst is actually as a featured app thanks to this stream. So that's literally a whistle-stop tour. We'll come back to talk a little bit more about Civo, but I'll hand over to John for a start of a demo.
And I must say, Kai, that's quite brilliant to use the Lego images, because like everybody love Lego. So now we do the association between Civo Marketplace is as nice as like Lego. So
that's very kind of you. I was thinking about what kind of images to use, because either they're building blocks or they're like foundations. And I was looking on Unsplash about like building foundations, and they're all ugly and they're just concrete and whatever. So I just went with Lego.
You can't go wrong with Lego.
Exactly. And let's say hi to
Dinesh.
Yeah. Oh, it's Dinesh. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I didn't realize what the last name. So hey, hello. Excited to be in that live stream, and thanks for watching.
Yeah, definitely. So let me take a quick sec. I'm going to go a little swiftly, but I wanted to show the new Civo Marketplace installer experience for the Kubefirst platform. The Kubefirst platform is a instant GitOps platform with a whole bunch of opinionated cloud-native tools that are all pre-configured, working together so that you can be in Kubernetes in a production-ready, GitOps-oriented ecosystem with automated infrastructure as code, and all of the things that you would need to get a project up and going from scratch in no time flat. Now, one of the challenges that we have as Kubefirst is the installation of that ecosystem. It's a complex operation. There's a lot of things that might go bump. We leverage a whole bunch of Terraform upstream providers. We have a whole bunch of container images we have to pull in. We just have to have a lot of things on the internet go right in order to establish a Kubefirst platform. And historically, that responsibility of conducting that initial install has always been the responsibility of the end user on their own laptop. And so that means that, certain users that we have that have maybe low network bandwidth, maybe they don't have a very high-powered, MacBook Pro like we've been spoiled with at work. In those types of environments, it can be a little bit of a challenge to get that initial cloud platform established and up and operational so that you can use it and start to extend it however your business requires. So what we love about the Civo Marketplace is it's got this nice opportunity for us to get that installer on very stable cloud-ready infrastructure so that you can do your installation on stable infra, which is really going to help your installation process if you work on a shaky network or maybe don't have the best hardware on your laptop. So let's walk through and just kind of get a Kubefirst install up and off the ground. You can see I'm here in my Civo dashboard. and you can hit the Kubernetes button here. If you don't already have a cluster, you'll be able to create your first cluster there. That you also have this create new cluster up here. They do the exact same thing.
And we have Alejandro. I hope I didn't screw up your name.
Yeah.
Who is also here, and I assume me too is because you're excited also about what we're going to talk about or being with us. So hey, nice to be here.
I'll take either.
Right. So the initial cluster that you're going to create that has the Kubefirst installer in it, it's temporary. You can basically name it whatever you want. Our documents and this example, I'm just going to call it installer. And you don't need a big cluster. You can run it with just a single node if you want. I like to use large. You can use a medium and get away with it, but it does need a little bit of muscle to get through the provisioning process. So for expedience sake, I'm going to go ahead and click a large. And this is the brand new feature. My heart just sings over this. The feature tab, you can just click the Kubefirst icon, hit create cluster, and that's the whole process. And this is going to give you that initial bootstrapping.
Excellent.
Thank you, Fred. That's going to create that initial Kubernetes cluster with the Kubefirst components pre-installed into it that we're about to connect to. And then once we connect to it, it'll guide you through a wizard of how to place your new management cluster in the Civo cloud. We'll walk through that. The cluster provisioning process in Civo, we saw Kai bring up a quote from Mark Boost about challenging the status quo of clouds. Yeah, it's all about cluster provisioning, uptime and downtime on the Civo cloud. It's so lovely. If you come from an AWS shop, like I historically have always been an AWS cloud engineer, you know that creating an EKS cluster can take time. You have 20, 15 minutes or so to get your EKS control plane established. And then you have to add your node group to the control plane. That's, more EC2 uptime. We're talking about, another 7, 8, 9 minutes to get your nodes up and off the ground and then attached to the cluster. And then, before you know it, you're talking about 25 minutes to spin up a Kubernetes cluster in AWS. Now in Civo, you might have noticed we're done.
That was like 2.5.
Yeah, the cluster is available. It takes no time at all. And we at KubeShop are not alone in that we have a platform engineering team. Platform engineering is this new discipline. It's sweeping through basically every shop that's running Kubernetes professionally. And as a platform engineering practitioner, it's important to be able to iterate on your infrastructure operations in Kubernetes. And having this nice, very, very fast Kubernetes ecosystem that you can create like that, you can destroy. I can't wait to show you destroy. Destroy is even faster. But just being able to iterate fast is hugely consequential to platform teams like our own, platform teams like yours, if you're tuning in and you're also part of a platform team. Just being able to iterate, 60, 70, 80 times a day instead of 3 or 4 or 5 is just magnificently impactful to your ability to go fast. So anyway.
5 is a lot. That's because you know what you're doing.
That's right. So we have our new cluster. Let's go ahead and connect to this cluster. I'm going to open up a new terminal. I happen to already have the Civo binary. You can brew install the Civo library. It's very easy to install. Once
John,
you do,
can I ask you to maximize the terminal and make the phone a little bit bigger?
Thank you so much.
And while you do that, we have Dinesh say he arrived for the cats, but he's staying for the incredible demo. So you have pressure. You have some pressure now, John. It needs to be incredible.
That's right.
No pressure.
No pressure.
So yeah, while you're doing that, John, I was just going to say the Civo binary. That's the Civo CLI client, right? That's the thing that
correct.
So it's basically a command line client that you get an API key from your account, and you can run all the things that you would do on the web, just in terms of scripting or shell commands.
Right. So here I've run the Civo command to get my kubectl my kubeconfig file from the Civo cloud and drop it in my working directory. I'm just calling it Kubefirst kubeconfig. And then I'm going to run an export command so that my kubectl client understands that that's the kubeconfig that I want to use. Once I have that, I can now communicate with my brand new Kubernetes cluster. If I do a kubectl get nodes, you can see that we have a single node Kubernetes cluster, just like I asked for, and kget ns. I have my kubectl alias to k for easy typing. You can see that this is just a normal, good old-fashioned Kubernetes K3s cluster, but it's got a namespace of Kubefirst. Fantastic. So let's go ahead and port forward. In fact, let me show this on screen. In the marketplace, in your installed apps, you'll see that Kubefirst has been installed to this cluster, and there's some instruction here about how to connect to the Kubefirst service. So I'm just going to copy that, paste it in here, and now it's available to me at. Let me go to localhost, and let's go 8080. And here is the Kubefirst installer. Fantastic. But it's not running on my local host, even though it says localhost. This is truly running in Civo infrastructure. I'm just leveraging my local host to establish that port forwarded capability to interact with a service that's running on Civo infrastructure. So I've got this nice stable network. I don't have to worry about the network dropping out on me. I don't have to worry about what happens if I drop my laptop lid because I'm switching to another room or whatever the problem is. So here,
And when you do that, you don't have to press the enter key like a savage person. You can just gently push the enter to access localhost.
That's right. That's
I'm
right.
just like, what the hell happened? It's like, oh, John pushed the enter key on his keyboard.
So
you should hear my clicky keys on my keyboard. I tried to, if I, doing a demo or whatever, I have to try and press them really gently.
I will. No, I'm just a passionate typer. I can't stop myself. I'm sorry. So I'm going to drop I have a GitHub personal access key in my buffer. I'm just going to paste it in here. We have instructions on our docs about how to get a good GitHub or GitLab token. We work on both the GitHub and GitLab SaaS offerings. And then you have to specify a GitHub or GitLab organization, or in GitLab, it's a group that you want the GitOps repository that we're going to give you hosted in. So for this demo, I'm in the Germany region. I'm going to do Kubefirst DE today. First DE. I have a GitHub org specifically for that. And then for the Civo API key, I'm going to click this link. This is going to take you to your security page. You can just click right there on that box. It'll copy it to your dashboard, or excuse me, to your clipboard. And then if we hit next here, that's really all the tough stuff that you have to do. Now you just have to give a name for the email address that you're going to use if your certificates are not auto-renewing for any reason and you want to get a notification for that. So I'll do alerts at Kubefirst.io. And then you have to specify a cloud region. I'll do Frankfurt. You have an option for your DNS provider. I'm going to use the Civo DNS provider. Again, I'm going to attach it to kubefirst.de.
And for those that are like that know Kubefirst, you used it before, the DNS provider Cloudflare is a new option since 2.6.
Yeah. 2.26. We introduced that. And I'm going to give this one the cluster name management. Now, this one is my permanent Kubernetes cluster that I'm going to create. It's going to have all of the GitOps, all of the CI/CD, all of the automated infrastructure as code, cert manager, external DNS, external secrets, you name it. It's all going to be automatically provisioned in here with the click of this magic create cluster button. And with that, this process takes about 10 minutes to run, maybe a couple extra minutes for DNS propagation. So at this point, Fred, I think we should throw it back over to Kai, learn a little bit more about the Civo Cloud and what they've been up to. And then hopefully by the end of that, this new management cluster is going to be up, running, humming, ready to rock and roll.
Let's do that.
Cool. Yeah, let's just run through a few other things that we at Civo provide while that's doing its thing. I did. What I'm just going to note is I like the fact that you, when you said that you, you might need a beefy laptop to do this if you're doing it yourself. But that's why you went for the larger node, but you can still do it on a single node cluster. Just like oomph, get it through, and then you're up and running. Yeah. So like I said, we're a cloud provider, which means that we do things like provide servers that you can run stuff on, but we try to do things a little bit differently, which is, and I'm just going to quickly present like four ways in which we think that we're doing things right and differently to some of the other people. So first, as mentioned, we try to be fast. So that was a fully functioning Kubernetes cluster with namespaces, control plane, a node, and everything else running in just about 2 minutes. I think it took.
It was truly 70 seconds. It was extremely fast.
Yeah, so we try to shoot for 60 seconds. I think it might have been slightly longer because of that Kubefirst installation. But if you're running a bare cluster, you should have it in a minute. The storage layer that we do is really fast as well, but that doesn't come as a compromise, from price. We did some analysis couple, maybe 6-7 months ago now, and we are about 50% of the price of any of the equivalent hyperscaler services. So your AWSs and the like. And third, simplicity. I don't really like to use the word simple because nothing about this stuff is simple. Like, we're talking about fairly complicated sort of services, service discovery, networking, configuration stuff, security. But at least, what we try to do at Civo is if we're going to launch a service, we're going to call it what it is. So like, we do an S3 compatible object store that I'm going to talk about in a minute. It's called Object Store. We don't try to not be cryptic about anything. We try to present things as they are. We try to stick to upstream defaults wherever possible. We try to align ourselves with common best practices. We think Kubernetes should be a foundation and a platform for you to build platforms on. So that's what we try to do. We try to give you a thing that kind of just works. At the same time, we don't try to lock you in. We think that the cloud should be open. The cloud should be portable. It should be, somewhere where you can lift and shift your workloads wherever suits you. Isn't that the point of containerization, that stuff just runs?
Right.
So and that's also like where we try to stick to upstream as much as possible, so that say you run Terraform or whatever, we don't try and introduce extra layers of complexity because it's already complex enough, right? And we are CNCF compliant, so we are a certified Kubernetes provider. And then fourth, we try to be personable. You shouldn't have to jump through hoops to get to speak to an engineer who kind of knows about this stuff. We try to be accessible, whether it's through our Slack or any other way of communication. You should be able to talk to real humans. Sorry.
Hey man,
Yeah,
I like that. I like that. And about the simplicity, I get what you said. Like, you don't really like to use the word simple, but I feel like it's a little bit like when I talk about Kubefirst to people. I mean, we tackle the complexity, so it's simple for you to use our tool, but like, we tackle the complexity. Now, I have the impression that like Civo's offering is a little bit like that too. Like, made cloud easier for people, but you manage the complexity to make it easier for customers and users.
Yeah, so I mean, like the Kubernetes cluster service is a great example of that. We take care of the control plane and the sort of hooking up of the various nodes and whatever. All you have to do is you specify, I would like 3 more nodes, please, and we handle that for you. Like, like we try and just be as approachable as we can. I guess that's a good way of doing it. But then, to come back to the topic of the marketplace, right? We provide a whole bunch of applications that are pre-configured, and they sort of read data about your cluster, and you can sort of inject DNS from your cluster into various apps, which means that it'll know how it access or how you can access it directly. It'll give you a URL, right? Things like that are ways that we try and simplify things, but it comes with opinionation. So what John was saying about, Kubefirst being opinionated and these, sometimes you want to really go to the nitty-gritty of configuration, but there's also such a thing as best practice and things that work for most cases. And I don't remember who said it. May have actually been Mark, our CEO, because he used to race cars. It's like sometimes you need a car, and sometimes you want to build your own sort of F1 racer, right? And I certainly do not want to build an F1 car. I just like to get somewhere, please. So I think we think that for most cases, a lot of the things that are available in the marketplace will just work, especially if you're doing the kind of iterative testing, iterative development, like what John was describing, that platform engineering teams do, is, let's try with this configuration of these things. Let's try with this mix of these nodes and these apps. Like if you're able to do that iteratively and quickly, then that gets you to a better place than if you had to configure each line yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So just, while we're waiting for the other bits to do, I'll rattle through some of the other services we do at Civo, if that's all right.
Yeah, by all means.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you attended the first Kubefirst stream that I was on in April, this might be a bit of a recap. So sorry for that, John and Fred, but I figured there might be new audiences here too. So
My cat is listening.
that's cool. Cats are attentive listeners. They're great. Mine is hopefully not going to barge in through that door behind me because she's very noisy when she does. But yeah, so we do virtual machines, or as we call them, compute instances. They run on the same sort of platform that runs the Kubernetes nodes. We call it Civo Stack. They're also super fast to launch. They have the same facility, the same sort of fast NVMe storage as our Kubernetes nodes. So if you just wanted to run a single virtual machine instance in the cloud, you could do that. Whether you're running like I don't know, an IRC bouncer or anything like that, you could do that for like $5 a month. We have Object Store, which is an S3 compatible object store. You can access it with anything that talks S3. And again, that also uses the same NVMe drives that back the other services. Super scalable. I think they go in blocks of 500 gigs. So you can go big on these things. And sort of talking about storage as well, we also have databases as a service. So we do managed cloud MySQL and Postgres, with Redis coming soon.
Nice.
And then this is the thing that I mentioned was coming soon. When I was last on here, this is something we're rolling out fully now. It's our machine learning service, and we use Kubernetes as the base, and we layer on Kubeflow, which is an open source project, to basically handle all your workloads and pipelines. And the reason we're doing this is we know that the bulk of any given machine learning project is spent, like the bulk of time and effort is spent on the infrastructure rather than refining data and making learning. So again, kind of like what the Kubernetes idea is, like, look, we'll stand up the cluster for you. You concentrate on the app development, right? So with this, we're handling the infrastructure of the sort of setting up the cluster and the services, and letting you concentrate on your actual data workloads. And then, so I kind of mentioned that we try to be approachable, immediate in other ways too. We have a great Slack community. We offer sort of support, personal support. And also, if you're just starting out with Kubernetes, we have a video collection that we call Civo Academy. It's got over 50 videos on various Kubernetes topics, starting from like Linux commands to, advanced Kubernetes networking. And you can try Kubernetes for free on Civo with a $250 intro credit as soon as you sign up and add a valid credit card. And once you are in your account, we have this thing called KubeQuest, which allows you to start with deploying your first cluster, and then it's sort of like step by step taking you to eventually deploying your first app. And then we have open source contributable stuff. I saw Alejandro put a a comment in the chat earlier about open control plane. That's a thing that we've started developing where you could manage Kubernetes. Sorry, all kinds of cloud resources as Kubernetes objects, which is kind of neat. That if you could go kubectl create virtual machine instance, and it do that.
Open control plane is actually super interesting to us at Kubefirst. We've kind of had this challenge of infrastructure as code, creating infrastructure as code from scratch forever. And there's obviously with Terraform's a command line tool, which is helpful when you're creating stuff from scratch. But then you have other IAC tools like Crossplane, which is more GitOps oriented than Terraform is in its architectural design, but it runs in Kubernetes. So you can't create your Kubernetes cluster from scratch if you need Kubernetes to run your IAC tool. And Open Control Plane offers this really interesting model that kind of changes the API of the cloud so that YAML that you want to be driving your infrastructure as code is the payload that you're sending to your API. And it seems to us that there's a future there where, binding that to Argo CD, you would be able to both use Open Control Plane as your initial creation of your infrastructure, but also use it as your continued day two desired state for that infrastructure, which would just be the holy grail of what everybody's been searching for on infrastructure as code. So anyway, super cool project. Definitely check out Open Control Plane. It's a neat product.
Yeah, it is. It's cool. It's very much in the early stages. It's something that we've been toying around with internally, and it's once again on our GitHub, so you can check it out there. The other things that you can contribute to in terms of open source are obviously marketplace applications, which is circling back to the topic at hand. And then just quickly, I know we're going to probably talk about this at the end as well, but we're putting an big event on in London on September 5th and 6th this year. So that's in 3 weeks. And tickets are still available at civo.com/navigate. We will have an amazing lineup of speakers, including Kelsey Hightower, who's giving a keynote. Plus, I hear a certain John Dietz might be making an appearance.
Yeah, me and Kelsey. You gotta show up for me and Kelsey.
Yeah. I'm going to skip to the next slide in just a second, but just wanted to say that we are also doing a Civo Navigate North America in February 2024. We have just announced that today, so you're among the first people to hear about that. So even if you can't make it to London, check out the website and come to Navigate in Austin. But yeah, so here's a little bit more detail about Navigate. There is a discount code there. You can use the code KHCivoNav £50 to get a £50 ticket. So I think the standard price is $350. So if you get yourself a ticket at civo.com/navigate, definitely use that code. If you don't manage to catch that discount code, because we're probably going to move on, hit me up on Twitter. My handle is at KaiPMDH. It'll be on the screen in the next slide, and I'll be, I'm sure, we can sort something out if you don't catch that discount code. But yeah, would love people to come to Navigate and see, Kubefirst and all kinds of other cool people. That was a very quick run through, but I know that John hopefully has a functioning Kubefirst setup. But I'll be happy to answer any questions about Civo. And I am still on Twitter. And yes, Dinesh has put, can I try Kubefirst with the free credit on Civo? When you get free credit on Civo, when you sign up, you can try anything you want, right? And Kubefirst doesn't require a credit card either, do they?
That is correct.
Yes. So you can navigate to creating your first cluster on Civo, add Kubefirst, follow the prompts there, and you'll be up and running.
That is a real free credit. Some places you have limitation, And now try everything. It's all you can eat buffet. Like try
Yeah.
what you want to do with that credits. I like that.
Yeah, we so because the idea is that for 250 you can run a pretty beefy Kubernetes cluster for a month. Is the idea that you can try something real world on that. That's
Right.
what we want you to be able to do is not just, oh, here's a little toy thing that you can
Yeah.
spin up. You can spin up the whole infrastructure that you want. But yeah, obviously what we do require the credit card for is just basically customer identification, because unfortunately there have been issues where people abuse free credit.
Why would anyone do that,
No.
Kai?
Not in the internet. It's not a thing.
Exactly.
People
It's
don't
like,
do that.
those people are why we can't have nice things.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And let's say hi to Valzy, by the way, BTW. Thanks for joining us. And John, are you ready to take the screen?
So I can't promise anything about DNS resolution, but it is done. And that was actually really good timing. It just flipped over to success. So it takes that long to have everything you need for your company to thrive in a scalable, fully production-ready, IAC-driven, GitOps-oriented ecosystem with user management and single sign-on and blah, blah, blah. I could talk about Kubefirst all day, but I won't. But what I will do is show you the conclusion of a Civo Marketplace install and how that gets you into your permanent infrastructure on your new management cluster. So here you can see there's a concise and a verbose tab. You can kind of see the output of the execution of the IAC as it was provisioning your management cluster. If you ever had an error, it would show that error there and give you an opportunity to retry once it tells you what the problem is or whatever. But once you get to this 100%, you have this next button enabled. And right here, what this is telling you is congratulations, you've got a new Kubefirst cluster that you've named management. And there's this password that we're giving you here. I'm going to hit copy. And that's the root password for the KBot user, which is the bot user that runs all of the automation on the platform. So there's all kinds of stuff that happens on the platform. We have automated infrastructure as code. We have CI/CD that does GitOps delivery to a development, staging, production environment. And when you have systems like these, it's important to have a bot ecosystem so that bot can be the one that's executing more administrative commands on your team's behalf so that your team doesn't need those same administrative capabilities. You can just submit a pull request and say, hey, can I please have an object store? And the bot will create the object store for you in the Civo cloud and say, got you, buddy. And you never needed access in order to be able to have that object. It sort of moves the responsibility of IAC out of the engineer's laptop experience and into a control plane that has full auditability so that everybody can see everything that's going on, blah, blah, blah. So anyway.
And it is such an exciting thing that you just demoed that there is flyover happening like at Kai's.
Yeah, there are literal fighter jets flying in formation above my house in celebration.
If I was a pilot,
I can understand what. I can understand why.
I would be there with him if I was a pilot. I would. So we're going to copy this KBot password and hop into our brand new Kubefirst cluster here. And you can see that a few things to call out. There's some links to get you to the new Git repositories that we created for you that you are now hosting in your GitHub or your GitLab. We have links to get into Vault, get into Argo CD, Workflows, Atlantis. And you can see over here, no sad trombones. This is all happy times.
Yeah, that was the wrong music. I'm like, no, I wanted to do this one.
Oh, yeah, there we go. That's much more apropos. So you can see here that we have a Metaphor app that these links are all spinning. That is expected. Right now, we've given you a brand new Metaphor repository, and there's a pipeline that is running right now that's responsible for building your container, publishing your Helm chart, and then it's going to do GitOps delivery to your development staging production environment as it makes those GitOps desired states available to your ecosystem. External DNS is going to wake up and say, uh-oh, we need some new DNS entries, some new A records to get to this new Metaphor application. And as that DNS propagates, these will start to turn into live links. So if you see these spinning, there's nothing wrong. You just have to wait it out. The process for a new CI/CD pipeline to deliver to dev stage prod takes about like 8 minutes. And then plus a little bit of extra time for DNS propagation. So anyway, let's take a quick look. I'm not going to go into depth at all on what you have, but just so that you understand what you're getting, you have Terraform laid out in infrastructure as code. You get, the opportunity to see what we've created on your behalf. This is all bound to your state store in the Civo buckets. And as you need to extend and expand the Kubefirst platform for your business requirements, you're just adding Terraform to these same spaces, and you can extend it in any direction that you choose. The Terraform section is one of our 2 main sections of the GitOps repository. The other is this registry section. The registry section is how all of the GitOps gets into your cluster. You can see we have a cluster name management here, and this is how all of the stuff gets into your cluster. So if I go let me log into Vault real quick, and I'm going to log into Vault. I'm going to switch this to username. I'm going to type the name kbot, and for the password, I'm going to paste that password that I received on that last screen. And now I'm logged in as the root bot user that's running all the automation on the platform. So just by being logged in as an administrative user in Vault's IDP that we've established for you, I now immediately have single sign-on access into Argo CD. So if I click that Argo CD link, we're still waiting on DNS propagation. I'll come back to Argo CD. We'll go to Argo Workflows. Argo Workflows DNS is ready. And if I log in just using single sign-on, here you can see a Metaphor publish Argo Workflows job that's executing. You can see the nice tiny little small containers that are constructing the process of publish so that you can have tiny little scripts that do things like publish your container to your container registry, and you can keep the surface area of what needs that secret down to its bare minimum, which most CI/CD tools are a little bit less surgical. They say, hey, you have a repo, just give me some secrets. And then everything that runs CI can have access to those secrets. We've taken a much more surgical approach to how we manage secrets on Argo Workflows. We have GitHub invoking those workflows, or if you're a GitLab shop, we have GitLab CI invoking those workflows. GitHub and GitLab are running self-hosted in your cluster container. So you're not paying GitHub for execution time of the CI jobs, and all of the work that's happening on your code is happening in your cluster. So you have full governance over what it is that has access to those jobs. So if you're a high compliance, high security environment, it's a really, really great paradigm.
And John, just before you move to like I was going.
No,
to before can you just zoom a little bit for maybe people that never seen like workflow, just to have like an idea of like what it looks like?
I appreciate that.
Awesome.
So yeah, you can see here that we have these tiny little containers to do tiny little CI jobs. All these functions get delivered with the Kubefirst platform to your management cluster. So you can invoke these same jobs the same way our Metaphor sample application is invoking these jobs. And you can see that, like, checkout, it does a tiny little thing. It just checks out your source code. You can see the container logs when it executes. And then we set the chart version, and then we publish a Helm chart, and that's the publish pipeline. Now, from a GitHub standpoint, when you execute CI/CD in GitHub actions that are invoking Argo workflows, we have this really nice integration between the two, so that your actions, when this job is executing, if we look at that same publish job and hit publish here, you can see that this is running a build push SSH. And then if we scroll down here, check out with GitOps SSH, then you can see get chart version. These are the same every time it changes colors in your GitHub or your GitLab. That's a different container that you're entering in this Argo workflows ecosystem. So you have that nice tight feedback loop to your developers, because your developers want to be in their Git ecosystem. That's where their home base is. That's where they're committing their code. That's where the merges are happening. And they want that feedback of what happened to my execution of it being delivered to dev stage prod right there in that home base. They don't want to be in a secondary tool. They don't want to be in Argo workflows. But we've bridged that gap so that the Argo workflows ecosystem that your security team wants, so that you can have that nice atomic control over what has access to your secrets and what your RBAC rules are. But you get the same developer experience as if you would have if you were just running GitHub Actions or GitLab Runner CI. So really cool story there. And then if we hop back in, I bet Argo has propagated at this point. Come on, little buddy.
And while you do, oh, sorry, go.
No, I was just going to say, so John, Metaphor is a Kubefirst specific sample application, right? It's a thing to demonstrate exactly this process.
That's exactly right. And shortly, once this completes and actually gets delivered to development and the DNS propagates, in fact, I can show you from a different stack that we have what it looks like. It's just a, let me do.
And while you do that, you missed the infamous haiku about DNS, but Dinesh was saying like, yeah, it's always DNS except when it's BGP, which is like Border Gateway Protocol, if I'm not wrong. And Jared answered the answer that Kai said before. So now we know, Jared, that you were not listening before. A good answer, though.
Absolutely. So this is the Metaphor app. There's nothing to it mostly, but what it does is very valuable to us as platform engineers. We use the Metaphor application anytime we want to try something new with CI, or anytime we want to try to extend whatever we consider an application to be. And we expect that that would be the same thing you would want to use Metaphor for at your shop. Like, for example, if you had 20 applications, 20 microservices, and they all use the same CI/CD, and they all deliver to dev stage prod, and you want to improve your platform, and maybe you're a Datadog shop or a New Relic shop, and you want some, whenever a deployment happens, you want to send an API post over to Datadog or to New Relic to indicate that a deployment happened. That's the type of thing that you want to build and experiment with somewhere. The question is, where are you going to experiment with that? How are you going to build that? How are you going to add that to your platform, make sure that it works and it's operational without negatively impacting your team? Obviously, you could go to one of your developers and say, hey, can I break your build for a little bit and just kind of mess around with your CI? And maybe they say yes, because they're good people. And you start to, mess around with their CI, and you're trying to add this call and it's not working right. And meanwhile, they can't deliver to development. They got deadlines. They can't be having you messing around with their CI/CD pipeline. So Metaphor affords you that safe space where it does deliver to all your clusters, but it gives you, the platform engineer, an opportunity to change the way that your CI works, get some new best practices established, and then you can hand a real tangible example of how it's implemented in an application to your developers so that they can understand, that's the pattern. I'll add that to my pipeline. And then nobody was disrupted. They were able to deliver to production the whole time while you were messing around with this new CI pattern. So that's how we use it. It does have some neat things like it does pull secrets out of Vault in an environment specific way. It does set environment configurations in an environment specific way. So if you wanted to have a real tangible example of how to integrate with Vault, how to integrate with Helm, how to integrate with external DNS, Ingress Nginx, how to get certs. All of the things that are in the platform are all wired into the Metaphor application in a very real and tangible way, so that you have a good starting point to understand how the Kubefirst platform works when you're building applications for delivery to a development staging production environment.
So Dinesh asked a question, but it was before you started to explain about Metaphor. So I think the question was like, how can I add the Metaphor pipeline to my existing application? So it's not really like a pipeline as explaining. It's like more an example of like how you can integrate your own application within the Kubefirst ecosystem and like all the tools that we install and configure on your cluster for you. So
100%. So we're looking forward to a future answer where we tell you this new user interface is going to allow you to just boop, and then you can have a new application. In the meantime, basically there's 4 file types that are important in the Metaphor application repository. I can show them to you right here. So the first one is the .argo folder. This is where we have the pipelines for how to deploy, how to publish, and how to release. And you can see that really all these are some, like that. Really all these are some calls to some cluster workflow templates that we deliver with the platform. So we just call a function called checkout with GitOps. And then we call another function that we give you called get the chart version. Then we pass in some parameters and it just always works. So you have this deploy.yaml that if you have 20 environments or you just have 2 environments, you can just call deploy in your GitHub or GitLab ecosystem. Now that's the second file type that's important. Is this .github folder, or if you were a GitLab shop, this would be a .gitlab ci.yaml file right in this repo root. All I can show you is one of them at a time, but the GitHub variation, really all this is doing is Argo submits of the same .argo files that are in this application repository. So this is how we invoke those workflows from GitHub Actions or from GitLab so that we get that nice tight feedback into the Git ecosystem like the developers want. The third file type that's important is your Docker file. We have a Docker file that's specific for Metaphor. You would want to augment this to not build the Metaphor app, but instead build your actual application. And once it's building, you just copy that Docker file right in the repo root and you're ready to go. And then the last detail is the charts. We happen to be delivering using Helm for our GitOps delivery to development, staging, production. And as such, you have to have a chart established in your app repo and you have to publish that chart. We publish it and deliver it to an application that lives in your cluster called Chart Museum. It's a really simple application that just fronts S3 and has an index YAML that keeps track of all the charts that you're publishing. So really lightweight application for chart registry. And if you were to take those 4 things, copy them out of Metaphor, copy them into your application repository, make a tiny little adjustment to the Docker file so that it's building your app instead of ours, that's all you need, and your app is delivering to DevStage Prod as well. Appreciate that question, Dinesh. And let's see, I think Argo CD better be done propagating at this point. It's propagated, but it doesn't have a good cert yet. But this will be enough to show you what that looks like. So let me hit it. I'm going to type on here, this is unsafe, which is a nice little backdoor thing that you can do whenever you see that screen.
I'm assuming that you're using Let's Encrypt for those.
We are indeed, yeah. And we can see what that Let's Encrypt provisioning process looks right now. If I hop into Argo CD, we should see that there's a Ingress. Yeah, here we can see the Argo CD server Ingress has a broken heart, just like my heart's broken. It's just not fast enough, but it will be here in just a second. So what you can see here, whenever, so on the Kubefirst platform, and this isn't really, we've put some really nice pieces together, but the credit goes to Ingress Nginx, Cert Manager, and external DNS. When you put these 3 technologies together, it produces this really cool opportunity where anytime an Ingress YAML hits your Kubernetes cluster, we have Ingress Nginx monitoring it, we have external DNS monitoring it, and we have Cert Manager monitoring it. And the 3 of them collaborate and say, hey, we have a new Ingress. So let's go ahead and make sure that we have a load balancer to get access into this cluster. So that's the first thing that happens. Ingress Nginx creates a load balancer, and then you have a way to get into your cluster services. Now, the second thing that happens is you need a host name. And when you define your Ingress spec, you'll define what that host name is. Ours is like metaphordevelopment.kubefirst.com or whatever. For your domain, it would be the same except with your domain. And when you specify that that's the host name that you want. External DNS wakes up and says, oh my goodness, wait a sec. We need a DNS record, an A record to map, whatever the host name is to this Ingress Nginx pod that's listening on this load balancer. And it maps the A record to the load balancer. And then the last thing that happens is the cert issuer and cert manager ecosystem says, okay, if there needs to be a host name for this, we're going to need a TLS cert so that you can have SSH communication to this service. And so cert manager wakes up, says, hey, let's encrypt. We're going to need a cert for this host as soon as you can prove that we are who we say we are. So that request goes out, and you can see that's this certificate request here. An order happens, then a challenge happens. The challenge is doing, in our case, it's an HTTP 01 challenge. If you needed private DNS, you could do a DNS 01 challenge instead. But this challenge is going to create a temporary ingress on your cluster. Make sure that you own the DNS associated with that cert that you asked for. It'll prove that you do own that and that it does have the secret that it was expecting. If it does, it'll send cert manager the certificate. Cert manager is going to store that in the CRD, and magic, it's available to your application. And I can see that this challenge has been fulfilled. So if I hit refresh here, actually, I'm probably going to have to close this browser and then open it back up. Still says not secure. I don't believe it, though. Let me go incognito.
But it's not, at least it's not complaining. Incognito would go, hold on, like the same way you got issued the this is unsafe. So
you would think so. I think it might be mid. So after we receive the certificate for Argo CD, the Argo CD server does need to know about that. It's also interesting that this certificate did not render. So this might be the demo gods messing with me. Certificate request failed to complete and will be retried.
This is where we need those sad trombones.
Yeah, Let's Encrypt is like the most stable ever. I don't know how this could possibly be happening when we're recording. Let me go ahead and hit delete. When I delete there, it should issue a new certificate request that'll go out. Here you can see it's trying to conduct that HTTP 01 challenge. This truly never happens. So if that does ever happen to you and you see that it failed to issue the certificate for whatever reason, you can just delete the certificate request. It will re-request it. And there it seems like it did everything it needed to do.
What Dinesh said.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was probably the DNS timeout, although I thought we had that negotiated in our orchestration, so not 100%. But in any event, now when I go incog, I should be able to, and now I have a good cert and everything's happy and everyone's good again. So
Excellent. Excellent.
So that's sort of our GitOps story. Our metaphor application here has, sorry, not the metaphor application, the GitOps repository has this registry management where all your applications get bound. And the only important thing that I'm going to call out on this live stream is that directory is tied to this app of apps called registry. And they are just implicitly bound to each other forevermore. Anything that you need, so everything that is in the cluster, if you want to discover how it got there, it's always because it's in registry somewhere. So you just follow the breadcrumbs to find all the applications and how they unfurl. We have all these really cool orchestration techniques baked into our GitOps so that, like, for example, Vault is on sync wave number 20. And if we look at the external secrets operator that depends on Vault, this is running at sync wave 30. So we have these sequences of installing pieces. And then once that piece is installed, we're able to move on to the next phase and allow things that depend on it to move forward. And then you sometimes have to even go back and then reconfigure the old application. When you're creating Kubernetes platforms from scratch, there's all these chickens and eggs that happen in the provisioning process. And we have this really cool pattern with the Argo CD app of apps, where we're able to control the sync waves of orchestration so that you can get the applications to all unfurl correctly. And then literally you can delete your cluster, create a brand new cluster pointed to that same registry point, and it will hydrate with the identical set of applications the exact same way, which from a disaster recovery standpoint is just an SRE's dream come true. So yeah, I think that's pretty much, I'm not going to bore everybody with all the ins and outs of the Kubefirst platform. It does everything. It manages your users, infrastructure, GitOps application delivery. It builds your apps. You can pull in third-party apps. You're not handcuffed to the stuff that we give you. You can get rid of our stuff and add your own stuff. You can move into clouds that we don't even support. We've actually had enterprise customers that have done that. So by all means, check it out. It's all free. There's no credit card swipe. Go to Civo, get yourself some $250 in free credits. And what a better way to spend that $250 than having a fully operational Kubefirst platform that can deliver your apps to dev stage prod. So.
Awesome. Great demo. So yeah, obviously we love Civo. And talking about Civo, Kai told you before, there's a conference coming up, and he spilled the beans. John's going to be there. So John's going to be there with Jared, and they're going to give 2 talks. So like 2 speakers giving 2 talks together. So it's like if you were listening to 4 talks at the same time. So John and Jared is going to talk about, the first talk is going to be Mind the Gap, bridging the void between infrastructure as code and GitOps. And the second talk is going to be Farming Cloud Native Platforms. Prepare for an army of chickens and eggs. And now I'm curious, and I'm a little bit sad that I'm not going to be at Civo Navigate, because like the first talk is going to be interesting, I know, just for the title. The second one, I'm like, I want to know what that is, and I don't remember the abstract you wrote about it. So.
I'm assuming it's to kind of do with what you were just saying about,
Exactly.
when you're creating platforms from scratch, and you have to kind of go like, well, this depends on this, but this can exist before that, and you're doing the chicken and egg thing multiple times.
Exactly.
So awesome. So down is Civo Navigate. It's coming in September. You've seen you have a coupon code that Kai shared with you, discount. So amazing conference. Never been to, but I heard great things. John was there also last edition in North America.
Yeah, we were in Florida, and then the next North America one in February is going to be in Austin, Texas.
Yeah, I know people living in Texas.
All right.
Maybe
that's a good spot for the next US one. I have been to Civo Navigate. I have not been to England before, so I'm really looking forward to being in London. We'll be there for an extra day afterwards. So anyone from the Kubefirst community, if you want to get up, have a coffee, we would love to get together, talk tech, talk Civo, talk Kubefirst, whatever. So looking forward to the event though.
Yeah, and speaking about Texas and the fact we have Kai here, so we didn't talk about it before, I just thought about it, but you're also one of the organizer of KeyCD Texas. That's happening in October. Actually, do you want to do a quick pitch about the community day?
Yeah, I mean, I don't actually have the date sorry, but yes, we are doing Kubernetes Community Days. We're trying to, Civo is trying to, have a presence at a whole bunch of these kind of community-oriented events, because obviously we are trying to shake up the status quo a little bit. And if you are going to be doing, a little bit of a shake-up, you need to do it from the bottom up. So we want to be at these sort of practitioner events. I was just at DevOps Days Chicago last week as well. So yeah, those kinds of events are really cool because of the smaller nature of that kind of conference as well. Kubernetes Community Days, they're just a great way to get to the nitty gritty with people who really know this stuff, rather than being bombarded with just like sales things. Thank you. Dinesh has just commented, KCD Texas is on the 6th of October.
Yeah, and you know what? I just realized you're not the person I was thinking about when I said that. So it's why you were like,
Yes, that's fine. I'm pretty sure we will have a presence.
No, yeah. In fact, I was talking to Mark about it, and I understand that we are sponsoring the coffee, and Civo is sponsoring the Wi-Fi. So what an awesome combination, yet again, of the Kubefirst Civo team coming together to make sure everybody has what they need.
Yeah, exactly. Things you can't live without: coffee, Wi-Fi. Boom. You know.
There
exactly.
it is.
Like we don't care about the talks. It's we go there for the Wi-Fi. No, it's a joke. But yeah, we're gonna be there as John said. I'm gonna be there with Clay, who is an engineer on our team. So looking forward to that event also. And let's forget all the other clouds for today. The only way to use and try Kubefirst is only on Civo. So go on Civo. And the only other choice you have, actually, you have two other choices. You can choose between GitHub and GitLab, or you can install using the Marketplace, the CLI, or the console UI. But as you've seen today, it's so much easier to do it with the Marketplace. So go and try it on Civo. That's the only platform we support as of today for the time of the live stream.
And you can't miss it when you do go on Civo and you go to the Marketplace. It is right there on the first place as a featured app. So, you know, no excuse to go like, oh, I didn't find it.
That's right. That's right.
I like that. I like that. And as usual, go on civo.com or civo.com/marketplace if you want to have a preview of the application. You don't even have to create an account just to see what's available in the marketplace. But yeah, you're probably going to want to create an account right after to try all the nice application, including Kubefirst that are in the marketplace. You can also join our Slack community. It's on kubefirst.io/Slack. This is where the magic happen. We are doing like Civo in the sense that like we're really a human-centric company. We like to connect with people. We like to talk to people. We are there to help you. There's the Helping Ends channel, and not just about Kubefirst. Like anything cloud native, we don't have the answers to everything, but we're a bunch of people who have experience with cloud native technology, Kubernetes, or GoCD, Terraform, Vault, name them, and we're going to be more than happy to help you. So join the fun, and yes, and Kai is there too. He's part of the community. So on that note, any last word for the live stream about the marketplace, about the Kubefirst experience?
Now, I'll just say that it's a true honor to be on the feature tab of the Civo Marketplace. It's producing a great experience for our end users. We're really excited about it. The Civo cluster provision times are just second to none. So give it a whirl. If you're curious at all, it is a really great feeling to just click that create cluster and have a full instant platform in no time flat. So
I mean, and that's kind of I'm just honored that you're doing that with us, because that's the kind of philosophy that we both share of like, you know, you just want to get to doing stuff rather than
right.
spinning your wheels. So yeah, I think, you know, that what was the title, Fred, that you put for this thing, A Match Made in Heaven? I think it might
Exactly.
be. You know?
Exactly. Yeah, I checked with Kai and John before because I was like, that's a little bit cheesy, but at the same time, you know what? That's kind of like the case. So why not go public
Cheesy's
and
good.
declare our love to the rest of the world?
I'm not shy.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome. So on that note, folks, do you know what you hear when you listen to a Unix shell?
What do you hear when you listen to a Unix shell, Fred?
You can hear the C. For those of you that don't understand, it's because it's written in C. So
I was certain that we were going to hear an echo. I was waiting for it.
Oh, that would be good too.
And then I hit with the left hook.
It now.
I know.
You just yeah. Okay.
2 jokes for the price of 1. That one was free, everybody.
Awesome. So thanks everybody for joining. Let us know if you want us to talk about specific topics on the next live stream, or if you want us to invite someone else than Kai. No, we like him. So thanks, Kai, for joining us. Thanks, John, for the great demo. And see you in 2 weeks. Have a good one.